Jimmy Butler is a 6-time NBA All-Star, a 5-time All-NBA Team honoree, and a 5-time NBA All-Defensive Second Team honoree. But would you believe it if I told you that the story of how Butler got here is even more remarkable? From a homeless man without a family to one of the biggest NBA superstars. In today's video, we will reveal one of the greatest stories in the NBA world, the story of Jimmy Butler. Now, Jimmy Butler might be the last person you'd imagine as having been homeless. Growing up on the outskirts of one of Texas's wealthiest cities, he seemed to have it all. Jimmy had the support of his loving family, which led him to become an NBA All-Star, but not the support of his birth parents. At just 13 years old, his world came crashing down when Jimmy's father abandoned the family without a word, leaving them in turmoil. To make matters worse, Jimmy bore a striking resemblance to his absent father, which his mother couldn't bear to see. She eventually reached a breaking point and kicked Jimmy out onto the streets. And just like that, Jimmy found himself homeless at a tender age. He bounced from one friend's house to another, trying to survive high school without a stable place to call home. But on days where he had nowhere to turn, he wandered the scorching Texas streets, facing the harsh reality of life without a roof over his head. Living in such dire conditions forced Jimmy to make a life-altering decision, one that would shape his path to NBA stardom. See, anyone who's grown up in Texas knows that football is king. And while Jimmy loved the game, he realized that playing under the scorching sun and the heat just wasn't for him. Not to mention his years on the street had left him malnourished, and he'd be trampled on the football field in seconds. So eventually, he decided to switch to a cooler indoor sport, basketball. He often talks about shooting hoops on the orange rim, escaping the relentless Texas heat. Little did he know back then how significant that switch would be. Butler wasted no time signing up for basketball at Tomball High School, determined to excel. And his basketball journey took off during his senior year when he met Jordan Leslie. As the universe would have it, the two would soon become more than just friends. They'd become family. Jordan's family welcomed Butler with open arms, offering him a place to stay whenever he needed it. At first, it was just for a night or two, but before he knew it, he had found a permanent home. More importantly, Jimmy had found love and support, something he'd been missing for a long time. Jimmy understood the gravity of the situation. The family that had taken him in had placed their trust in him, and he couldn't afford to let them down. With newfound hope coursing through his veins, Jimmy set his sights on a massive goal, making it to the NBA. His journey began at Tyler Junior College, where he made an immediate impact on the court. Scoring 33 points in his debut game was a surreal experience for Jimmy, leaving him questioning if it was all too good to be true. But as he continued to dominate with 35-point performances, Jimmy's confidence grew, and he realized that he belonged on the court. However, Jimmy knew that his success at the junior college level was just the beginning. To fulfill his NBA dreams, he needed to elevate his game and catch the attention of top-ranked universities. At that moment, Jimmy faced a harsh reality. His path to the NBA was even more daunting than he had anticipated. With a star teammate drawing attention from scouts, Jimmy found himself competing for the spotlight. Doubt crept in as he questioned whether he could measure up to the competition. Passing the ball became a risky move, as Jimmy feared he might not get it back amidst the fierce competition for attention. His teammate, who was already committed to Marquette University, was a standout, attracting the eyes of coaches, particularly Marquette's assistant coach Buzz Williams. Determined to prove his worth, Jimmy set out to catch Buzz Williams' attention, knowing that a spot on Marquette's roster could be his ticket to the big leagues. When Buzz approached him with words of praise, Jimmy saw a glimmer of hope. But it wasn't until an unexpected phone call that Jimmy's dreams began to take shape. Being the first person Buzz called meant everything to Jimmy. He trusted Buzz implicitly, and without hesitation, he committed to Marquette University sight unseen. This decision was the first step towards achieving his goal, but Jimmy knew it was just the beginning. When he got to Marquette, Jimmy realized he had his work cut out for him. The stakes were higher, and he realized that to stand out, he couldn't settle for being average. But he wasn't the only one thinking that way. His teammates were also vying for spots in the NBA. Feeling overshadowed by a star player like Wesley Matthews, who was already on NBA scouts' radar, Jimmy faced an insane amount of pressure to perform. He feared he'd never get the chance to prove himself. How could he compete with someone like Wesley? But Coach Buzz saw potential in Jimmy that others overlooked. He pushed Jimmy harder than anyone, often subjecting him to grueling early morning drills. Though the workouts were brutal, they were all part of Coach Buzz's grand plan to mold Jimmy into an NBA caliber player. Buzz knew Jimmy's story and his NBA aspirations, and he was determined to play a crucial role in Jimmy's journey to the NBA. But the intense training regimen nearly drove Jimmy to quit basketball altogether. He struggled with homesickness and constantly felt the urge to return home. Despite his internal struggles, Buzz believed in Jimmy's potential and relentlessly pushed him to excel on the court. Marquette players and coaches said that Butler was forced to do defensive drills repeatedly. He also worked with assistant coaches on finishing through contact, with coaches hitting Butler with pads and frustrating him. What the current Miami Heat player didn't realize was that this rigorous training would ultimately become his greatest asset. While he was anxiously awaiting his chance, Wesley continued to dominate on the court, leaving Jimmy feeling overshadowed. As Wesley departed for the NBA, a door opened for Jimmy to step into the spotlight at Marquette. With the starting spot up for grabs, Jimmy was thrust into a position of leadership. Though his hard work had finally paid off, he had doubts about his ability to fill Wesley's shoes. With no NBA team showing interest in him, Jimmy faced immense pressure to elevate his game and impress scouts in just 1 year, or risk seeing his dream of playing in the NBA slip away. So he began to hit the court with a vengeance, showcasing his skills with game-winning shots and consistent scoring performances. His standout play, especially during March Madness, helped Marquette forward. But despite his success, Jimmy remained focused on his ultimate goal: to play professionally in the NBA. After the 2011 season, Jimmy made the bold decision to enter the NBA draft, knowing that his future in basketball hung in the balance. As the draft day approached, he faced the uncertainty of whether his dreams would become reality or remain just out of reach. Despite the stiff competition, Butler held on to hope that his hard work and talent would eventually earn him a spot among the best in the NBA. As the draft unfolded and names were called, Jimmy anxiously waited, but his name never echoed through the arena. Despite his stellar college career, many teams viewed Jimmy as too much of a risk due to his lack of flashy athleticism and highlight reel plays. It seemed like nobody was willing to take a chance on him until the 30th pick arrived. With the 30th pick in the 2011 draft, the Chicago Bulls finally selected Jimmy Butler from Marquette University, and overwhelmed with emotion, Jimmy couldn't hold back his tears. Jimmy realized he'd accomplished all that he could wish for, but becoming an NBA player was just the beginning for Jimmy. He understood that it was a stepping stone toward even greater achievements. With the power to inspire millions, Jimmy made a vow to give his all to the game and show the world that anything is possible. Now, as an NBA player, Jimmy Butler isn't satisfied with just being good or even an all-star. He's driven by a desire for greatness, with an unwavering determination and a relentless work ethic. With his tenacity and grit, Jimmy has the potential to leave a lasting legacy in the basketball world and beyond. Butler has been known as one of the hardest working players in basketball ever since, and there are very few players who can claim a comeback story as epic as his. So there you have it. From Jimmy's childhood struggles to his challenges over the court, this was his inspiring journey from homelessness to NBA stardom. Thanks for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Stay tuned for more uplifting stories like this one. See you next time.